Hi, my name's Jesse Dean, and I'm doing a video for Campus Online in regards to cultural reflection. I was born and raised in Inglewood, California. It's an incorporated city of Los Angeles, close to South Central LA and the West Side. I was born in 1961, and I never met my father, who is Negro Latino. I have never met him even to this day. My mother took that secret to the grave. She told everybody that she was part indigenous. I was raised by a stepfather who was European as well as my mother, American. And my mother actually came from a background of, they had a plantation in Virginia colonies. And my stepdad was first generation from his dad. His dad was from England. His mom was American, European. Um, and I was raised in the Mormon church. Come 1965, Inglewood was basically a lot of European people there. And and when I was about 4 years old, we had what was called the Watts riots, and it was an uprising of black folks in the South Central LA area, not too far from where I live in Inglewood. And all of a sudden, I didn't realize it, but I always thought that my neighborhood was predominantly black, but I was very grateful to have grown up around black folks because it became predominantly black. What happened was my family was one of the few families that chose to stay in Inglewood when the demographics changed. Most people, families uprooted themselves and moved to what we called the San Fernando Valley. If you ever seen the movie Valley Girl, that'll give you an idea. It's a suburb of the north end of Los Angeles County. When I was growing up, I remember going to the stores in Inglewood and Los Angeles, and with my brother, who was a half brother, so he was full blood European, and they would always wait on me last. I noticed that, and they treated me as if we didn't weren't related or anything. So I knew growing up that certain people were treated certain ways. When I was in elementary school, we got segregated uh, into busing. So they took us from Inglewood, which was mostly black, and they took some of us over to what is called Fox Hills area. And a lot of basketball players live over in that area today. It's on the other side of Inglewood, and they have a lot of money over there. It's like night and day. And so I remember that growing up. And I also remember school was fun, but it got kind of wild later on because of gangs and stuff. There was a lot of uprising because of the cops, how they treat black folks and whatnot in the neighborhood. I remember when my father got shot. We lived in a park, next to a park. Um, we had a large property there next to the park, and he had gotten shot. It took the cops to come and the ambulance to come quite a while. I don't know why it took so long to come in a black area for a guy that's, could be passing away at any moment, but it took him about 20 minutes to get to our house. Um, I also remember being profiled in Los Angeles a lot of times. One time, my daughter and I were coming back from a Dodgers game. We had our hats on backwards, and we got pulled over for being Latino. Um, a lot of other times, I got pulled over just for being Latino. One time, I worked at Starbucks, and I remember I'd have to bring my green apron with me in the car a lot of times, and uh, the cops would pull me over and then they'd say, "Where are you coming from?" and everything. I'd point to the green apron. So there would be no questions. And then we'd start talking about food. I'd always try to get the conversation on food so I wouldn't end up in jail for no reason or have my car towed for no reason. Um, and I remember too, one time I was at a bus stop in Orange County, California. And, a lot of times I would have my mohawk because my mom told me that I was Iroquois and they had mohawks. So I got profiled just for standing at the bus stop, with the mohawk. Um, but I was also raised in the Mormon church, and that was terrifying because I experienced racism for the first hand. They actually teach racism in the Mormon church. Everything's whitewashed. All those stories are whitewashed when you read the book. It has description of people in there, and they're not European looking like. But besides that, they teach that indigenous people, which is what I am, Latinos were indigenous to Turtle Island, that when we stop sinning, our skin will turn pale like theirs. And they also teach that black people are have the mark of Cain, which is supposed to be black skin. And these things are terrifying, because first of all, they're not true and they're teaching backwards way thinking. So all my life, I've been surrounded by these people. I left that church in high school, and it has shaped me because a lot of times I take different routes and stuff when I drive, and I think, well, maybe I should go down this way and whatnot. I remember in elementary school, a lot of these other kids that came from other households, um, from the European households, they had these ideas that other people were not as worthy as they were. Maybe they were more superior than other people. So I heard derogatory words, which I won't mention here, but more than just the N word. And at that time, it was myself and a boy named Nasser, and he was from Egypt. And Nasser and I were the darkest skinned kids there at school, and we would always get the N word, at least in my class. I don't know what it was like for other kids in their class, but I think I was in about fifth grade. And back then, my mom, sometimes I'd get the school lunch, but for the most part, my mom would pack me a lunch bag. And in the bottom of that bag would be a dime. And that dime was to buy ice cream. And, when they started harassing Nasser and I just took it upon myself that I wasn't going to take it. So I found joy. And how I found joy was I took that dime that was meant for ice cream, that my mom gave me for ice cream. And I would stand up on a bench after lunch, and I was so anxious I would only eat half a sandwich. And I would say to those kids, the colonizer kids, hey, who wants this dime? And they would all jump up and down. I do, I do. And I would throw that dime as far as I could. As far as I could. And I would watch them eating the rest of my sandwich in complete joy. And that is my cultural reflection. Thank you for your time.